The old house stood on a hill shrouded in shadow. Sarah and her friends approached, their laughter dying in their throats. A chill wind rustled the dead leaves around their feet. "Do you think it's really haunted?" whispered Emily, her eyes wide. "Just a bunch of stories," scoffed Jake, though his voice lacked conviction. He pushed open the creaking gate, its hinges groaning like a mournful cry. The whispers started as soon as they stepped onto the overgrown path. Soft, sibilant murmurs seemed to emanate from the house itself. "Did you hear that?" Michael asked, his hand instinctively reaching for Sarah's. She squeezed it reassuringly, though her heart pounded against her ribs. The whispers grew louder as they neared the porch, swirling around them like a cold, unseen mist. They sounded almost like voices now, beckoning them closer. "Come in," they seemed to hiss. "Stay forever." Despite their fear, a strange compulsion drew them towards the front door. It stood ajar as if inviting them inside. The interior of the house was dark and oppressive. Dust lay thick on every surface. Cobwebs draped the furniture like macabre decorations. The air hung heavy and still, thick with the scent of decay. As they ventured deeper into the house, the whispers intensified, echoing off the walls, surrounding them. "This was a bad idea," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. She felt a growing sense of unease, a prickling sensation on the back of her neck. They reached a grand staircase, its once elegant banister now covered in peeling paint. "Let's go upstairs," Michael suggested, his voice strangely detached. It was as if the house itself was guiding their movements. They ascended the stairs, each step creaking ominously beneath their weight. The voices grew louder, more insistent. "Stay forever," they hissed. "This is your home now." At the top of the stairs lay a long corridor, lined with closed doors. The whispers seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves, their tone shifting from enticing to threatening. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, and she exchanged a worried glance with Emily. There was no turning back now. They reached a room at the end of the hallway, its door slightly ajar. A musty odour wafted out, sending shivers down their spines. Cautiously, they pushed the door open. The room was dimly lit by a single dusty window, revealing faded grandeur and decay. In the centre of the room stood a cheval mirror, its surface cracked and webbed with age. As Sarah approached, she felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Her reflection stared back at her, distorted and unfamiliar. But something else flickered in the depths of the mirror, something dark and menacing. Shadows shifted and writhed within the cracked glass, taking on vaguely humanoid forms. "What is that?" whispered Emily, her voice tight with fear. The shadows in the mirror seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, their forms becoming more defined. They were watching the group, their cold, empty eyes burning into them. Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, breaking free from their confines within the mirror. They poured into the room like ink seeping from a broken pen, swirling around the terrified teenagers. Panic welled up inside Sarah as the shadows solidified, taking on grotesque, almost human shapes. The shadows moved with an unnatural speed, their forms shifting and swirling like smoke. Sarah and her friends screamed, scrambling back in terror. They tried to run, to escape the room, but the shadows were everywhere. Doors slammed shut before they could reach them. Windows refused to budge. The house was holding them captive. They found themselves back in the room with the mirror, their hearts pounding in their chests. The shadows pressed in, their forms growing more solid, their intentions clear. "There's nowhere to go," Jake cried, his voice thick with fear. He lunged at a window, but it wouldn't break. In a desperate act, Sarah grabbed a heavy candlestick from a nearby table. With a cry of frustration and fear, she hurled it at the mirror, the source of their torment. The mirror shattered with a deafening crash, shards of glass flying across the room. But instead of relief, a wave of icy dread washed over them. From the shattered remains of the mirror, a figure emerged, tall and skeletal. It was draped in shadows, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. "You cannot break what is bound," it intoned, its voice a hollow whisper that seemed to resonate deep within their bones. The shadows descended upon the teenagers, engulfing them in a cold, suffocating embrace. Their screams echoed through the empty house, then faded into silence. By morning, the house on the hill stood silent once more, its secrets kept safe within its decaying walls. But if one listened closely, on the wind, they could hear it, a chorus of whispers, now joined by new, anguished voices. "Stay forever," they whispered. "Forever."